All right, welcome to Tech Talk Live. It is Tuesday, May 6th. I'm Jack Armstrong at 6 p.m. here in Los Angeles.
And 9 p.m. in the DMV. I'm Sam Giacinto, and welcome to Tech Talk Live. You're welcome to chat or call in with your tech news or questions. Happy to talk with you. Before we get started, we love Before Sunset AI. It's your productivity superhero powered by AI in a good way. Use code Tech Talk Live for 3 months free to conquer your to-do list.
Absolutely. So great use of AI to maximize your productivity, suggest to-dos and plan your day. So check it out, beforesunset.ai. Awesome. So we got a lot of news. It was a kind of a quiet week this week, but still some interesting things to talk about today.
Yeah, we have to start with this Android. I don't know if you've seen the article from The Verge yesterday evening. Apparently, Google just leaked the entire design of its next big Android iteration in a blog post.
So it is a now deleted blog post, though.
Well, they quickly deleted it. Yeah, which
but of course good, that right? Doesn't mean much. That doesn't mean much, of course. Yeah. So yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want to pull it up for our YouTube listeners, we could. I know there's a few screen grabs. If we did want anyone who's following the video version of the podcast can tune in here. This is an interesting material.
So here's the expose by The Verge, and we can kind of you can kind of see they have several examples of what Google quotes is the most researched user design ever. So you're seeing a lot of, I guess, starting from the top left, I mean, we have our, a pop-up menu of sorts. We have kind of a mixture of oval and rounded rectangle elements going across the top. Various thicknesses of lines, and kind of a simple, still kind of going on the flat design curve, right? There's not a lot of shadows or 3D elements, but perhaps maybe a simplified 2D version of, what, I guess, the system design. And I guess it's, I guess they split it into non-expressive and expressive, kind of emphasizing, maybe the album art or perhaps some kind of a more organic style, or, kind of the more traditional, app flow in a way. Between the two.
Yes, that's the beginning of Android. You've always been able to customize your phone.
And I'm curious. I always like to see what the comments have to say. Pretty much what I expected for any design language update. All change bad. So I think people are not, and it's actually funny. It looks like what critics thought of the Verge design, which is actually pretty funny because the Verge is it does kind of look somewhat similar, to be honest.
Well, so the color schemes strikes me. I mean, what do you take from the color scheme? I mean, is this just the current theme? I mean, this cannot be the default one. What do you think? It's just purple now?
That's an interesting choice. I'm sure there's going to be a variety of palettes. I don't know if they just chose, the purple as an example. I'm relatively sure that there'll be multiple styles to this. Where you can kind of maybe select a color palette, of sorts. I mean, because here you can kind of see, while the background's purple, right, we have the more traditional kind of blue and black, with varying design elements. So I guess, and there's also kind of, again, the expressive versus the non-expressive, right? With the difference seemingly being kind of how rigid the structure of the, I guess, applications or screens are. I don't know. It's, find key elements up to 4 times faster compared to the existing design. As the design help people over 45 years old spot interface elements just as fast as younger users.
That's interesting.
Okay, I guess they just made
I don't
it
know.
large.
I disagree.
So
They're just making it larger, so it's easier to see. Yeah, it's a little strange. I mean, so I like the font choice on the expressive. It definitely is a nicer typeface, but yeah, it's definitely bolder and larger. But that takes up more screen real estate, which kind of seems like it might go opposite to what they're trying to do. I mean, by having more screen real estate available for what it is, that you need to do on your phone. So it's interesting.
and it is, and not to nitpick on specifics, but this is a UI, right? It seems like they have the title of the artist, right? Traveler and Water Houses. But if you look in the non-expressive example, Traveler and Water Houses are kind of near the bottom, whereas the most relevant album art is by, I Say Another and Fragments. These are displayed at the top. This is the Water Houses album. And the Traveler album doesn't even seem to be, I don't know what's going on down here. Like, this almost looks like this album that's kind of cut off a little bit by Fragments. I don't know. It's weird. It is a little strange. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. We'll have to see. How big a button can be. So it sounds like they did a lot of kind of A/B testing, where it's like, how big a button can be for positive improvements of tap time without overwhelming other items. So I guess they really kind of came to the conclusion that taking up a quarter of the screen is the optimal size. I don't know. Well, but this is something where
it's a bold move. Yeah.
It seems to be research based. Right. 46 rounds of design research with 18,000 participants. Yeah. And I don't know, an archived version. So it looks like a web archive got to it. We have a little debut video.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah, so this is expected at Google I/O, which is this month, later this month, which will be exciting because Google always updates Android, and Android's been picking up market share. Have you noticed that?
Well, and that's and again, this may be a foray into UX. I'm trying to access the. Oh, here we go. So material design 3. So this is material 3. Okay. But yeah, I guess there's a few new elements. Kind of ways to present the content, a carousel design, how the color system is developed. We'll have to see. I mean, honestly, again, with all these things, it's sort of like very much supposedly this is very research based, and perhaps it is, but naturally people don't like change.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I mean, I would like a new design to succeed. I wish all the best for Google, but familiarity is a
So
powerful
we'll see.
force.
Absolutely. Well, so Google I/O this year will be on May 20th and 21st. So we will keep everybody updated. And Gemini, of course, these days is getting excellent press. I mean, they're doing more with Gemini than Apple is doing with Apple Intelligence. So we're expecting an AI first keynote, and of course, it will be interesting to see. They were also keeping an eye on Astra, Project Astra, which is Google's VO2 generative model of video content. And obviously,
All right.
since Google owns YouTube, YouTube has a huge library that they've been training VO2 on. And so I was lucky enough to get invited to tinker around with VO2.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, super interesting. Obviously, Material 3, expressive designs. Yeah, I mean, for generative video creation, I mean, I think generative AI, we're looking more and more. I don't think OpenAI, sure, ChatGPT was first mover, but Gemini 2.5 Pro, the deep research. I mean, Google's making the right moves in terms of they recognize they have the world's most popular web crawler that people use. And,
Google Chrome.
hey, I mean, whether it's Google Chrome or Google Search, I mean, they have a lot of data. They know theoretically what people need. And I think they know what people are asking AI, So
They do. I mean, they have all of that data too, right? So
yeah, so
it's
shall be interesting.
yeah. I mean, we'll have a lot to talk about after Google I/O.
And the Pixel Watch has also gotten.
Wow, so we
it's
may
May 20th to 21st.
we may have something to talk about on 2 Tuesdays. But more to come on the Google front. I don't know, a new Pixel phone, perhaps.
They will probably tease the Pixel 10, but Wear OS 6 is expected to be putting the Pixel Watch and the OS for Google more on par with the Apple Watch. So I think we could probably. I'm predicting that they do a premium version of the Pixel Watch this year. With the Pixel 10, I think they might go Pixel Watch, Ultra, kind of like Apple Watch Ultra. So I think a little larger device, better battery life, more rugged, more durable materials, maybe titanium, stuff like that. And so I think when we look at what Google's doing, with Gemini, with, everything in terms of the Pixel, Android experience, I think they're really no longer lagging, behind. And of course, Samsung also has impressive gadgets, but I think Samsung just makes everything, whether it's a smart ring, a phone, a robot vacuum. I mean, I like that Google stays a little bit more on like the handheld device aspect, I guess. I know it's kind of weird to say it like that, but yeah. It'll be interesting to see Google I/O. Yeah, we've got 2 weeks.
Well, very intriguing stuff. And who knows? I mean, they've segmented it into kind of web, AI, mobile sort of stages. I don't know if that's a metaphor or if it's actually like they're going to have different physical stages for each concept or reveal. But yeah, no, it's something to keep an eye on.
Well, also, XR and mixed reality. We always, can expect a lot from that as well. So, don't forget that, they're, digging into 3D content creation. They're digging into their relationship with Samsung, and yes, the whole Samsung experience in terms of virtual reality. So, which we need. I mean, the Meta Quest 3 has been out for over a year now, I believe. Don't quote me there, but and it's great. But again, we need more companies to really drive competition in the space. Yeah, Samsung's Project Muhan. We'll have to cover that on a future episode when they release XR. When they release XR stuff. So we'll see at Google I/O what actually comes out. I don't think we should talk to. I mean, there are rumors. We do love talking about rumors. Apple's, of course, the most fun to talk about rumors. But yeah, lots to come this year from Google. So shall be interesting. 2 more weeks.
Yeah, no, and Android XR is Android extended reality for those. I haven't really been keeping up with the, quote unquote virtual reality of the Android world. So it's cool to kind of see. I guess there's a headset coming soon, or glasses. So kind of, I'm curious too, because as far as virtual reality goes, I know the Meta Quest is probably by far the most successful or popular headset.
They came from Oculus. Well, they came from Oculus and had all of that backbone, that foundation. But also, glasses. That's where it's at. We've talked about it before on the show, the wearables episode we did. But you can't beat the Meta Ray-Bans. I think, is it, you know what I mean?
Well, and then those have been popular. I just, simply because I think it's a headset that doesn't look like a headset, and maybe that will kind of be that form factor. Because I mean, like, I don't know, there have been instances of people, I guess wearing the Vision Pro in public, and it kind of looks a little ridiculous. But when you wear a where you wear, like when you wear normal glasses, that kind of societal kind of
it goes away.
What's the word I'm looking for? Prejudice. I don't know, like against VR. I mean, the VR goggles don't really have a great reputation,
Yeah.
And for a decent reason. I mean, it's just sort of like Black Mirror has kind of a high profile version of, it's a novel, for the same reason people don't like a new UI design, right? I mean, it's relatively, it's a novel thing that people, and I think, from a wider perspective, it's like people are becoming more attuned to the fact that not all new technology is necessarily a benefit. Where it's like 20 years ago, it's like, oh my God, this is the internet, and this will be good because it will connect you with people across the world. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, we're at the point where it's like, we're now at the point where not all of this technology is necessarily a positive. It's not just all positive. People are a little bit more skeptical about what it means. So,
for sure.
No,
absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think also it does more. Speaking of glasses, it will be interesting to see what Samsung, Google, they do in this space, because even Apple, to some extent, I mean, why are they not getting into the glasses? I mean, I think the ability to snap a hands-free photo easily from your glasses in a split second. Pretty cool. You know, it's not as good as your phone camera, but the little camera built into your glasses, that's great. Same thing with, you know, again, they're glasses, they're functional. If you wear glasses, you can get prescription. You know, if you wear sunglasses, even better, they can transition, and transition lenses are getting better. And I think also, you know, yeah, the Bluetooth headset, you can listen to music. It's got little, and you're more present. I think more people like that, you know, where, you know, the earbuds, you put them in, and you kind of isolate yourself a little bit. So, yeah, I think we're used to wearing glasses. So, yeah, like AirPods, headphones, if you can put them into an experience that people are already, hey, I'm already wearing glasses. Why don't I just get smart glasses?
Well, you bring up
You
an
know, or the
interesting
batteries
point
can.
because I don't know if they're simply exploiting the fact, right, that people have, like people are used to glasses, right? So maybe it's like, oh, well, we just have to design something that has the look and feel to glasses such that people will
Mhm.
accept it. So I don't know if it's a way of repackaging something that is maybe a little bit more nefarious, perhaps.
Well, same
Uh,
thing with a smartwatch. I mean, people wear watches as a form factor, so it's, I think it's kind of the same there. But yeah, will be interesting to see what Google does at Google I/O. Um, I think we should move on to the Signal saga, continuing with good old Mike Waltz accidentally revealing a interesting version of the Signal app that is what, not an official version. How does this even go down? Uh, well,
well, this is
how does such a
interesting.
thing happen?
I mean, not too much to confirm or deny at this point, but essentially, an astute photographer at a press conference captured the phone screen of Mr. Waltz, displaying something kind of interesting. So it's a version of Signal that allows you to archive chats, um, that has a unique sort of pop up in the bottom of the screen. And I guess it's called TeleMessage. Archive your organization's mobile text chats and calls. It works on corporate owned devices as well as bring your own phones. In the demonstration, two phones running the app send messages and attachments and participate in a group chat. And the video claims that the app keeps intact the Signal security and end-to-end encryption while communicating. The only difference is the TeleMessage version captures all incoming and outgoing Signal messages for archiving purposes. So, you know, in a sense, abstracting all of, regardless of who or what they're using it for, from a security standpoint, what this means is that there's a copy of your data that's unencrypted that exists somewhere.
Interesting.
So, essentially, this kind of blows open the typical security. Now, again, this sounds very convenient. But again, when you think about, what makes an app secure is that while your data will stay encrypted at all stages of the transmission, storage, and in transit and storage. And there's a third one that's escaping me right now. But this kind of it appears to be a way around that. And with Signal in the news, it's again, like a Signal spokesperson told 404 Media, is that they can't guarantee the privacy or security properties of unofficial versions.
I see.
So it's just interesting to see it being used in any sort of but
Yeah, I mean, well, this is in a governmental way. I mean, this is definitely. I mean, it would be better if he was just not using the unofficial version, because the security would be not potentially compromised. So it's questionable right, that we see, the robust end-to-end encryption of Signal is not always maintained by third-party unofficial versions, right?
I mean, personally, that's I think that's a safe thing to say. I mean, if you're
Because
using
the
a
data can be
third-party,
somewhere.
if anybody using a third-party version of anything, it's not subject to the same testing, approval, or any sort of quality assurance processes that the original is. So just something to keep an eye on. It's impossible to say. I mean, they may have a fine implementation of it, but the thing is, like, when you reverse engineer, somebody's security algorithm, it's you're really re-engineering something else. I mean, it's something that again, you would have to guarantee a whole separate set of, so it's again, something to keep an eye on. And just for you as the consumer, I think the important message is, I would not personally use anything promising, that it can archive or download your messages, simply because it circumvents the programming of the app in which it's archiving. And if you have, an expectation of privacy, every tool needs to abide by that. So if you use a third-party tool, it's possible that it could violate what, the processes or protocols the original app uses. So
Yeah.
In really short terms, don't download random stuff on your computer
Use the
or
official
your phone.
version. Yeah.
Just stay away from things, because it's easy to overpromise and underdeliver. Okay. I mean, it's just, we've seen it time and time again, with companies promising and, perhaps, under delivering on what they promised.
So another way to protect yourself, though, I mean, obviously, I don't think most people have this problem. They're not trying to archive their chats with a unofficial app, right? But make sure you're using the official app. And also, WhatsApp, of course, end-to-end encrypted, extremely popular messaging app as well. So is Telegram. But I don't know. Like, we should do a messaging roundup one of these weeks. So I feel like, there's so many options. It's people need to, keep their eyes on updates and privacy, changes and et cetera. I also think it's worth. Did you get that video I shared with you, by the way, Sam, this week? Oh, it's that I found a really great channel this week, and I'm obsessed with it. So,
no, I'm actually
great YouTuber.
I'm glad you sent it. I'm trying to
Reject Convenience. Highly recommended.
Yes.
Wow.
No, he made some excellent points. I mean, the fact that often, the advertising, and this kind of links into, advertising online, where, often I think the reality of the situation is that when you see an advertisement, people aren't, I've actually signed in to Before Sunset. It's like I've actually but that's like, not more than 90% of some people may be recommending something, and that includes creators like us too. I mean, you have a right to be skeptical, and you should be. But for a lot of these YouTubers, they absolutely don't have or have not put any sort of vetting of the apps that they advertise. They haven't used them, or don't really care to look into them. And that's kind of why you've had a lot of these high profile sponsorship deals, really, um, yeah, I mean, really, I mean, it's like, what's it?
Well, I mean, Honey was a recent one. I mean, that's crazy.
I
You
mean, that
see
was a high profile
FTX
example.
also.
Exactly.
I mean, even back in the crypto industry, I mean, FTX had, whether it was, working with reputable sponsor, just personal, endorsements, but I think it's easy to be questionable. I mean, anyway, I shout out to this channel, Reject Convenience. Great guys, goes over what these companies do, especially like, delete me. Really, like, what is delete me a scam? Is Incogni a scam? It's not a scam, but it's probably not a good deal, and I don't know. It's fascinating because, I think, yeah, again, we talk about privacy a lot here. And anyway, I saw that channel and I instantly was like, wow, sign me up. Like, this channel is great. So anyway, just wanted to mention it. Really
no, and
cool stuff.
it's, I mean, we rarely give a shout out, but it's kind of one of those things where I kind of agree with a lot of what he's saying, and again, the privacy aspect of a lot of what we talk about. Um, that's huge. And just your data is an asset, so protect it like one. And you know, as much as it's painful, it's buyer beware. For anything, and that includes sponsorships and YouTube videos. And honestly, if you see
Well, and
something
so
in a YouTube video, maybe it's like, maybe give it some extra scrutiny. Okay. Just because you see it a lot on YouTube doesn't mean it's, necessarily, something where it's like, oh, well, I definitely should buy that. Right. I mean, I don't know,
oh yeah,
but
for sure. Well, also, he, in one of his videos, I watched a bunch of them. He talked about 8 sleep. And honestly,
yeah.
I have not looked. I didn't even think to look into the privacy policy. Listen, this company, the smart mattress company, they sell your data. Okay, they sell yours, and it's in their privacy policy. I don't know if there's any opting out. I honestly assume there isn't. If you use the mattress, it's connected to the internet. It knows when you sleep, what your heart rate is. Yeah, and it sends that data. I don't think it's tied to you personally, but honestly, maybe it is. And if even if it's not, and it's just like some, I don't know, IP address or something. I mean, I'm sure someone out there in a database can probably cross-reference that, and it just goes into the pool of data. There you go. And so I'm not gonna lie. It's a great mattress, but I regret buying it. And when I heard about the privacy policy from this company, ooh, I would really stay clear if I could go back. And you don't buy a mattress often, so I'm not buying a new mattress. I guess I'm stuck with my privacy invading mattress, smart sleep mattress. But I think it's just, again, being, whether it's a wearable, whether it's I mean, think about it. I mean, the Aura Ring, the Samsung Ring, the Apple Watch. I mean, hey, I know Apple has their research center. They don't do. I mean, basically, you're giving them your data for what? Improving the product. I mean, again, I don't know if
Well,
they're selling it also, but it's fascinating selling it to other researchers, right? I mean, it's weird. It's really weird. And again, be conscious. Look into privacy policies more than, I mean, yeah, just support better products, right? So anyway,
well, yeah. I mean, like, if only it were that easy, too. It's
well,
tough. I
and
mean, it's tough to
sponsors,
find stuff.
it's a hard one. I mean, I think when you're influenced by a sponsor to promote something, it's you want, as a creator, to be able to do it full time, I think. And when you have a sponsor, it's like this juicy candy sitting right there ready for you. And it's like, if you don't take it, you're not stupid.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
have
it's a
your
big
reason.
conflict of interest. I mean,
Yeah.
you would love to. again, like have a well-paying sponsorship offer that covers the cost of doing business. But it's not always that easy, you know. It's not always that simple. So
Well, and audiences also really look up to who they watch, and they really trust this, what you're talking about in terms of, what sponsors you're talking about. And so it's a lot easier word of mouth to, when a friend tells you, you're 5 times, I think, more likely to make a purchase than if you just saw it randomly. But if a friend told you about it, you trust them, it's going to be a lot more influential. So is YouTube videos, so is YouTube sponsorship, so are a lot of those things. So it's crazy.
well,
So
that's
we
an
also,
excellent point. Yeah.
yeah. Well, we also have an interesting thing, which is Cove. Cove is a relatively new company. They have developed a way to harness memory from your computers. And I mean, I don't know if there's a better way to explain it, but yeah, it's like outsourcing memory as well. And obviously, as AI
So,
becomes more important, yeah, we're gonna need that.
well,
We
and
need all that energy, all that memory.
this is something we talked about earlier, I believe, and maybe 10 weeks or so ago. But it's a novel tool that allows you or enterprise to pool and outsource computer memory in a way that dynamically allocates it to, essentially, you can get a large amount of RAM with relatively high performance relatively inexpensively.
Because it's distributed, right? From external
So
servers because it's outsourced.
now it's interesting because it's like, I don't understand how the latency, um,
Yeah.
so essentially, in kind of diving into a little bit more of
Well,
how it works, it kind of overcomes the latency issue, right? Because the speed of light is only so fast. And if you're sending stuff across the world, it takes some time. And this was something that was previously presumed unsolvable, right? You can't go faster than the speed of light, right? You can't, right? But what you can do is you can split a workload and essentially utilize memory that is strategically divided across systems so that data, you know, that's being processed locally stays, with that particular CPU, whereas other data resides in the memory pool. So it doesn't, I guess it's like it's dynamically expanding the amount of memory you have access to, but it's only keeping the hot stuff right on the host that is performing the work on exactly that amount of memory. Um, so
yeah.
I don't, it's, I guess it's,
Well, no,
and
it's
I guess
interesting.
the
So,
secret
by the
to
way,
smart.
SDM stands for software defined memory. So the software or the computer is defining where to outsource where to most efficiently process the data, right? That's how I'm taking it. Is that what you're assuming too?
Well, and it's so essentially what this is doing is it's dynamically allocated. So you're getting what you need when you need it, but you're keeping what you need immediately locally close to you versus having to have a huge computer to accommodate the spike at any given point, right? Like, say you need more memory for 30 seconds. Traditionally, you would have to run a computer that has that full amount of memory in stock, ready to go, a real beefy system to accommodate that spike in demand. And what this does is it will dynamically allocate that spike in demand extremely quickly. So you don't have to have a huge system running the entire program. So fewer servers are needed to change or to manipulate the same data, and so less power is used. So according to Red Hat and Supermicro, initial research kind of pegs this at a 54% savings. So you don't, and that's a huge efficiency improvement. And it allows you to really you no longer have to buy a really beefy server if you can dynamically allocate resources or memory, so you don't have to purchase a server just for that 30-second period. You can utilize a pool of RAM instead. So it's really from the performance enhancement and then also the power savings is kind of the huge breakthrough here, if that makes sense. And honestly, I need to really dig into it a bit more. I mean, granted, I don't think they're very, that specific in how the algorithm itself actually works, simply because if it really is this innovative, they probably have a really good patent on it, for how, but, so it's kind of software defined memory. Everything is software defined now. If you need more memory, it's funny because it's like, this is literally downloading more RAM. I don't know if you got, that old internet joke, right? But this is literally, you're provisioning more RAM in code. Like, it's just like, isn't that insane? I mean, it's just sort of like,
it's pretty cool. I mean, personally, I wonder if this could come to personal laptops. I mean, it seems like it's a logical next step potentially in the future because, occasionally, your computer might crash because you don't have enough locally. And, again, you do need a stable internet connection. So this probably does work best with Ethernet. But
well,
it is
the control plane does run over Ethernet, and the data plane uses Infiniband, which I believe is a proprietary. Is that the NVIDIA? I'll have to look this up. So the data plane, so the control plane does run over Ethernet, i.e., control messages. Infiniband is fiber. Okay, so it's essentially a it's been around for a while, but it's essentially a really high-speed interconnect for high-performance computing. So we're talking in the realm of 100 to 200 gigabits per second, if not more. Depending on your, I mean, it goes up way, it goes up high. But essentially, that's what the data, and it's funny because I said NVIDIA, but NVIDIA kind of owns the means of production. So
this is only an enterprise solution.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is not, this isn't your, it's it's a communication standard used in high performance computing that requires, and honestly, for most servers will probably have support for this type of this type of, I mean, but really any high performance networking equipment or server hardware will have this as an option, most likely. It seems to be the standard for high performance.
So it seems like this is going to allow what? Like, at the end of the day, this is beneficial to small startups in addition to large enterprises, but especially because, again, you don't need that big server when you're starting out. with your
Yeah.
project, right? You can say, hey, we might need bursts up to this, but it doesn't really matter because if it's programmed into the software defined memory, then it can just allocate resources as much as it needs whenever it needs a peak burst. Great, it distributes it out to other memory towers, right? Is that what they're doing anyway?
Yeah,
To
no, it's essentially
unlimited
exactly.
scaling.
Yeah. You can allocate and use memory on different hosts entirely via software. So if your program needs it, you can access the memory on another server instead of buying a single server with, because keep in mind your memory at a certain point, it becomes exponentially expensive, right? You buy twice the capacity, but it costs 4 times the cost. Like, it gets there at a certain point. But what if you could buy 2 servers with 1x capacity? It would be half the price, half the price of a single server with, the same. Anyway, the math is kind of screwed up, but you get the point. Is there's an exponential function of price to capacity, and you're basically coming in on the lower end of it, and you're just buying more instead of buying a single one that has, a huge amount of capacity. You can buy 4 that have a decent amount of capacity.
Yeah.
Um,
This is a great use of resources. I mean, it's a great way to enable scale. I mean, this seems kind of like what AWS did, to the internet, kind of. I mean, in a sense, you just outsource your server, put everything on the internet at a data center. I mean, I know I mean, now it's pretty standard, but in the past, you had to run this at your location, right? Like, which is crazy because that's not really how it's done anymore. So this is
well, and
crazy. This
no,
is
and
great.
it really could be an AWS moment, at least for it. And to be honest, they're probably using this in some way, right? This isn't, and they probably won't say, they probably have a lot of technology that they don't, disclose, right? But
You think you think
this is
Cove
something.
is using AWS, or you think
No, I
AWS
think
is using
they
Cove?
probably have a proprietary version of what this is, essentially. But now,
Oh,
somebody's offering it as a solution for you and I. I'm sure Amazon,
oh, sure.
kind of has, because they operate at the bleeding edge of, nobody hosts more data than Amazon. And to that end, they have a lot of unique problems where it's like you're operating at the edge of, what do you do when like any server you buy isn't fast enough, right? You have to build your own server. I mean, it's a proprietary solution for them, and they've probably had something like this before, right? Because they need more RAM than they can fit in a single computer. So what do you do? I mean, it's just sort of like you need to have RAM from multiple computers.
True.
And that's kind of just how
That's how it's done. Yeah, interesting.
and
Wow.
so I think
Well,
in a similar way, like Amazon custom builds their own solutions, and this is almost like a custom built solution, kind of mirroring that in a way, right?
yeah, no, absolutely. This is great. I mean, I think it's nice having awareness of all these tools and how they are enabling startups and enterprises all around of different sectors. Yeah, to give them the potential to have more memory without needing to have those significant costs that come with having that peak server and then just letting it sit there most of the time that gets unused. So I think this is great. Also, that we should do the render network. We should see where they're at with so the render network is doing blockchain, but again, very similar to computing in the sense where to quite literally render things, very large things. But it's fascinating too because they have a model where again, you can also provide your GPU as resources to the network to get I guess, compensation, like as tokens. So it's a really pretty cool thing. And yeah, I mean, this seems a little similar to that. From, I mean, again, I'm not saying normal people can just join Cove and provide their memory resources to the network, but again, I think it reminds me of the Render network, how they're distributing things. So pretty cool, pretty cool.
Well, one last thing, if you wanted to touch on the Apple. I know we didn't mention this in the title, but there was a rather interesting development. There has been a bill that's introduced today that, at least in the US, would at least force Apple to, essentially it creates rules for large app store operators. So over 100 million users in the US. Which would essentially force them to accept, alternative payment platforms and development tools without cost or discrimination. So it's an interesting development that kind of mirrors what's been introduced in the EU. That has similar legislation allowing, third-party app stores and changing their default apps, essentially.
This is great. I mean, it allows more competition.
So it's, and it's something we'll keep an eye on, but just kind of breaking news today. We'll see where this goes, but it seems like the clamps are coming down on Apple's gravy train of 30% for, really doing nothing except providing the customer. It's my personal opinion, but I don't think, I mean, their argument, they'll go back and forth. But something to keep an eye on.
We will definitely keep an eye on it. We're here every Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to visit us on the web at techtalklive.xyz. Visit our blog and subscribe to our newsletter. Find us anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube at tech_talk_live and on X. Join the conversation with us. We're here every Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, same time, with more tech news.